Hello, my name is Brother Taylor, and today I'd like to talk to you about direct object pronouns in French. In the book May We, there's a really good page that you should study, and that's page 217. Really important. It talks about direct object pronouns, how they're structured. Today I'd like to talk to you about kind of our models. These are what I call my models. And one thing you should learn in French is that models are very, very important. Once you learn the model, once you learn the structure according to a certain model, it is almost always the structure. In other words, the placement of the words in that sequence is almost always like that. So the key is to learn a model, and then once you learn the model, you can always, based on what you're trying to say, you can say the phrase correctly based on that model because you know the model. Don't forget, the model is always right. That's a really important thing to remember. The model is always right. So once you know what you're saying, whether it's in the present, in the past, or in the future, or with just two verbs, it's the same, basically same structure. And we'll look at these. Once you know what your model is, you can always know where things go. So here, for example, in the present tense, this is our model. For example, if I'm asking the question, you're watching TV, notice TV here is a direct object. The reason we know this is a direct object because there's no preposition here. There's no a or de or anything. All you have is a subject and a verb and an object. In other words, you are watching the TV. You are watching what? Quite often the direct object will answer the question what. If it's a person, it'd be who or whom. So here, you are watching what? The TV. In other words, what are you watching? Direct object answers the question what. So yes, you're watching TV. And notice here, what we're going to do is with a pronoun actually is a noun that represents another noun. So these are our pronouns we're learning in this chapter. Le, la, and they. Meaning, this means it or him when it's used as a pronoun. La means it or her, and them means, whether it's things or people, it means them. Le means them. So for example, you are watching TV. Notice this is feminine, singular, so that's why we're going to use la here. I am watching it. Notice the la is put in front of this verb, regarder. Je la regarde. I am watching it. So, or no, I am not watching it. No, je ne la regarde pas. I am watching not it. In other words, I'm not watching it. Again, it represents what? The TV, and notice the TV is feminine in French. So this is our model for the present tense. For the past tense, we have, for example, you have watched TV, or you watched TV, or you did watch TV. Tu as regardé la télé? Oui, je l'ai regardé. Notice here, I watched it. Notice you always put pronouns in front of the verbs that modify them. This is the only verb in this phrase, that's why the pronoun is placed here. And this is the verb that's modifying this noun, so that's why it's placed here. Notice there's an apostrophe because there are two vowels here. So this really is la, but we're cutting off the a here because there are two vowels here. So it still is la, but we're just cutting off the a because there are two vowels here. Now, no, je ne l'ai pas regardé. No, I haven't watched it. This is the model you put in the compound tense. In a compound tense such as the passé composé, you put the ne pas around the auxiliary verb. So here we have an auxiliary verb, past participle. These create actually the past tense conjugation. And so that's why we put the article here, but the ne pas go around the auxiliary verb here. Now, in the future tense, or when you have two verbs, either one, this is our model for the future tense. Tu vas regarder la télé. You are going to watch TV. Oui, je vais la regarder. Yes, I'm going to watch it. Or no, je ne vais pas la regarder. I'm not going to watch it. Notice here, you always put pronouns in front of the verbs that modify them. So here, this la goes in front of the regarder and not in front of the vais, because you're watching it, not going it. Watching it meaning the TV. So here you have two different verbs, and this is just one compound verb. That's why the la is placed here, and that's why it's placed here. Okay, so again, models are hugely important in French. If you understand the model, and you can practice it a few times, it's pretty much always going to be like that. In other tenses, in French, you'll learn other tenses that are in compound tenses like this. It'll always be the same placement. You'll learn other pronouns besides direct object pronouns. It'll always be the same placement here. So when you learn these things, these models, it will help you enormously in future French classes. Okay, let's see how our model works. Let's try to apply our model. For example, if I want to say, for example, something like this. He saw the books. Okay, now would that be the present? Would that be our model? Or would it be the past? Or would it be the future? Oh, we want to say he saw them. And we'll say, yes, he saw them. Yes, he saw them. So what would our model be? Present, past, or future? Probably the past, because this is about yesterday maybe, or last night, or whatever. So let's use this as our model. Notice in our model, this is all structured. Notice there's an E here because this is feminine. So you agree with direct object pronouns that precede verbs in French. So this la, there's an extra E here because it's feminine singular here. So with feminine singular, you add an extra E to the past participle. Whether it's negated or not, it doesn't matter. You always make the agreement with past participles in compound tenses, such as this is the passé composé here, with avoir. So, assuming this is true, which models are always correct, by the way, let's try to write a phrase similar. Il a vu les livres. So he saw the books. Okay, looks like we have a similar phrase to this. A question, really. See, he saw them would be just like this. So here we have our subject, il. We have our object here. Then we have to conjugate our verb. Il les a vus. Notice he saw them. We have this. Notice this agrees in gender and number. So here this is masculine plural. So we have to add an s right here. So notice, il les a vus is very similar to je les regardais. Now if I want to negate this, he didn't see them. Il ne les a pas vus. Notice here how similar that is to this. Il ne les a pas vus. Exactly the same structure. Except for this, there's an S here. We just have to change this little spelling thing here because this is still masculine plural and it still precedes the verb. Okay, notice here you still have a direct object here, but notice the direct object here doesn't precede the verb like it does here. This direct object pronoun precedes the verb. That's why there's agreement here. It has to precede the verb. Placement is important when you're doing agreement, like there. So in the passé composé. You only worry about this kind of agreement in the passé composé. That's what we did as we followed our model. Very, very important to follow the model. One more example. Let's say if I want to write this. They want to write the letter. And so they want to write the letter? Yes. They want to write it. They want to write it is what I want to say. What would our model be? Would it be present, past, or future, or two verbs? Now let's look at our phrase here. It looks kind of like the present, but there are actually two verbs, want and write. So this actually, two verbs is going to be what is going to be our model here. So let's actually write that. Ils veulent, we have to know how to conjugate the verb vouloir, écrire la lettre. Then I write, so that's the first question. They want to write it will be just like this. Ils veulent écrire la lettre. So this will be the answer. Oui, ils veulent l'écrire. Would actually, it looks like. Ils veulent l'écrire. Notice this is actually la, but it's actually la, but there's a contraction here because there are two vowels here. What if I wanted to say they don't want to write it? Notice how similar it will be to this phrase here, our model. Ils ne veulent pas l'écrire. Notice how similar that is. No, ils ne veulent pas l'écrire. Notice how similar that is to this model right here. If you know what your model is, it will always be right. So make sure you learn the models, practice conjugating your verbs, and how do you know if it's masculine or feminine? It just depends on what it's replacing. So, So for example, if it's a le journal, it'll be a le, or it'll be a la if it's like la télé or ma télé. So these are direct object pronouns in French. One quick thing about pronouns that I want to mention is, for example, tu vois ma télé. Notice if this is ma or la. If it's ma or la, either one will count as a direct object. Ma is basically, do you see my TV? Do you see the TV? Either one. This is actually a possessive adjective, but still, it's the same idea, and they're still direct. This doesn't count as indirect at all. It still counts as the same thing. So I see it, je la vois. I see it. Either one we count as la when we're trying to replace it with a pronoun. Same thing with, for example, tu lis mes livres. Mais is the same thing as les. So are you reading the books or reading my books? Counts as the same thing. Either one will be replaced by I'll read them, or I'm reading them, sorry. Je les lis. You'll just replace it with a les, either one. So don't worry about if this is possessive or if it's a definite article. Either one counts as feminine singular, and it will be replaced by la here. Do you see my TV? I see it. Do you see the TV? I see it. Same thing. Okay, thank you very much.